Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello girls, and welcome to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a women's online coach. Today, we've got Abbey with us, who is the founder of We Glow Wellness, who is an absolute wizard when it comes to mindset and women's health. Now, Abbey and I connected via the beautiful world of Instagram. And even though we haven't met one another in person yet, I feel as if we would get along really well if we just met up and had like a big cup of coffee or tea. So before I start and keep rambling on how amazing you are, Abbey, can you please tell our listeners a summary of who you are and where did your passion come from to build We Glow Wellness?
Absolutely. I would love to. So thank you for having me on firstly. And when all of this shambles is over, yes to the big cup of coffee and tea. That'll be amazing. So my journey, it's kind of a bit of a personal health journey that led me to starting and creating We Glow Wellness. So backtracking a little bit, my original background is in occupational therapy, which I studied at uni for 4 years. Alongside that, I was working in a gym as a group fitness coach, just because that was a little bit of fire in my belly at the time, really lit me up. Finished my degree and started working as an OT, floated through a few different areas, and I really was just looking for a little bit more. I've always been someone who's super motivated and determined to just love what I do in everything that I do, and I was still looking for it. So alongside that and going through my own personal health journey, I came off of the pill because it no longer aligned with what I felt was right for my body, and it took me almost 2 years to regain my cycle. Mm-hmm. During that period, I went down the healthcare system, which I thought was the right thing to do at the time. And I really was just kind of knocked back every single time. I would get test after test, see specialists, and everyone would say, everything's normal, everything's fine. And then a doctor said, oh, I think it's polycystic ovaries. And I was like, that's weird. My androgen or my testosterone levels aren't elevated. I've got none of the physical features going on. That's interesting. So I went to another women's specialist and she said the same thing. And she said, we can just manage it at the time. But when you do want to have kids, we'll likely have to do IVF. So she told that to me as like 21-year-old. And I was just like, you what? So that was just like, I can't believe this, which led me down the alternate healthcare route, working with different health professionals in the online space. And I fixed up my diet, my overtraining, my stress, my gut health, and of course I got my period back. So I was just like, oh my God, there is another way to help people. And I was just really looking into it. How can I use what I know now and my passion to help more people in a way that fuels my fire? So I went on to study some more around the nutrition and functional health space. And I decided I'm going to help people with what I really needed at the time. So then I started We Glow Wellness, and that's really transformed into a holistic mind-body health space for women, as well as a really heavy focus on the mindset after studying my master's in NLP and hypnotherapy. So yeah, to really bridge that gap between the mind and the body.
I love it. It's so cool because it's not just the mind and body. You're like incorporating the soul as well side of things, which I do find that many of us don't do enough of that work, or we don't know much of it to incorporate that into our clients. Because again, we all come from a background of wanting to be healthy, wanting to be fit, but sometimes what's holding us back is the mindset. It's the self-discovery or the self-awareness, understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. So let's talk a little bit more about the mindset side of things, because I know this is a massive passion of yours. So when you started working with clients, or even in your own journey, what are some obstacles or roadblocks that you found clients were facing when they're wanting to make that change?
For sure. And this is something that I experienced myself as well. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to resonate, but I was, and noticed this within my clients, so outward focused. would focus on the action, the systems, the program, plan, all these different behaviors to do. And like they'll go for a little bit and then something would happen and throw me off the bandwagon. Or in a client, life gets in the way, too stressful, just overwhelmed. And we're always just, projecting things outwards by expecting the change in here. So when we look into the mindset side of things, we need to reverse engineer that, because everything that we do, think, believe, say, whatever, comes from an unconscious level. When we look at the unconscious mind controlling over 90 to 95% of what we do, why do we first focus on that 5%, the actions, the behaviors, the conscious level, when if we focus on the 90 to 95% first, that external stuff comes so much quicker. So that was like super hard for me to realize, okay, I need to actually change what's going on within here and from the neck up before I can expect these outside results. And really navigating that within my clients, I think that's the biggest roadblock, because everyone wants to see change, but we need to actually feel it and internally embody it before we can express that on that external level.
I can totally resonate with that, because for so many years I wanted to looking a certain way, and I had all the the programs, the nutrition plans, and whatever the structure to do it, but the unconscious mind was just holding me back because of where that was old behaviors, old patterns from the past, and it was just constantly fighting myself to get to that goal. Eventually I did, but it was so self-destructive instead of being at ease and being able to understand that my behaviors weren't actually healthy enough to make that change.
100%. And when we, you would know, in the gym, it's all about intention, all about the intention behind things. And that's the same with everything you do. And if we're coming at our diet or our program or our plan with the intention of insert external factor, looking a certain way, for instance, that's the intention that we're putting out there, not that we actually need to become and be a different person before we can have that external thing that we want.
Yeah, it's so true. I love that. Now, you've mentioned that most of the work that you're doing right now is with the mindset with clients. I know we covered the roadblocks, but let's talk about, if you don't mind expressing, what are some of the steps that you would take with a client who is not, consciously aware of the roadblocks that they're facing?
For sure. I love this. So what we go through within my program is firstly around just the understanding that there is more than the physical body. There is a deeper level to things. And then we move through things like values, because every action we take comes from a set of values, as well as beliefs. Now, a lot of our beliefs can be limiting. So the only way that we're limited is by the own limitations that we create for ourselves. So if we actually start to understand where these beliefs are coming from, quite often they're from our younger years in childhood, then we can start debunking them and thinking about them in a different way. So we go through beliefs, values, and then start to future pace some intentions of what is it that you actually want to create. Now, we live in a society that we're so quick to focus on the negatives. We love complaining. We love focusing on all the, the empty cup side of things. Whereas if we focus our attention onto what are we actually trying to create? What do we want here? That's where our energy is going to go. And then we're focusing on actually embodying that, reframing your thoughts, reframing your words, which is one of the biggest factors. The way we talk about ourselves. Yeah, you would see that with your clients all the time.
Yeah, totally. And not only with my clients, from personal experience as well. I used to be a negative Nelly. Seriously, that's what I think it was my family or one of my friends at the time used to call me, and she'd be like, "You're so negative, Nelly." And I'll be like, "No, I'm not." And then I would just continue rambling about what was upsetting me or what I was complaining about. And again, that shift of just changing the way you speak or the way you think, again, it makes such a big difference.
100%, huge. And I think I can speak from experience as well, the way we talk specifically about ourselves. And I always say to my clients, 2 of the most powerful words are I am, because whatever follows those 2 words is what the subconscious believes. So if we're saying I am tired, you're going to be tired. If you're saying I'm fat, I am unhappy in my body, that is what's going to manifest into the world. So just really, really be super conscious of what you're speaking out into your reality.
So true, because again, like your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. So the constant, negative feeding that you're giving to it is just going to think that, yes, you are fat. Yes, you are tired. Yes, you are sick. Again, it can be quite challenging for some people to make that change because, again, they're not internally aware of those patterns. I know for myself, I started more with positive affirmations or even morning journaling of gratitude for myself. That has sparked more of that positive mindset for me and for many of my clients. What are some ways that you've noticed a positive change in behaviors?
Yeah, for sure. I love journaling as well, incorporating it when it suits you. I know there's a lot of resistance for a lot of people at the start.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, either not knowing what to write or too many rules to write. So just getting that habit of expression, I think, is really important. So whether that's, like you said, part of your morning routine, your evening routine, or just getting your thoughts out on paper sometime during the day, super important. I do love affirmations and mantras and things like that, making sure they're in places where you constantly or regularly look at them throughout the day, and take some time to mindfully read them and actually feel what it feels like in your body. If your affirmation is, I am abundant in all that I want to receive. Really feel what abundance feels like. Feel your heart opening, feel your tingling through your body, and just start kind of actually being that being in that moment. I do love vision boards. I'm big on future pacing. I love getting our body and our mind out into what your ultimate future looks like. So actually having some physical hard copy representations of what that looks like and feels like for you is super, super cool. And then we can go into the mindfulness and meditations and things like that. It's really important too.
I love that you mentioned the vision boards and also the affirmations. Now, when I first started doing the affirmations, I would be like, what? Do I just look at myself in the mirror and be like, I am a bad bitch, And be like, and I would look into the mirror and be like, I am a bad bitch. And I was like, this is really weird. Like, why am I doing this? But again, that didn't really resonate with the message that I was trying to come across. So again, doing a little bit more research around this. And as you mentioned, embodying it, feeling it. Does it feel good to you saying, I am, happy, or I feel abundant? Again, it's just getting more conscious of the body feeling of it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in front of a mirror. You could just say it out loud, to yourself, or even to people, depending on how open you are regarding it. But vision boards is a huge thing. And some people get really funny about it because they're like, what? Vision boards? I don't get it. So you're trying to tell me that I need to put something that's going to look like my future, but I don't have it yet. And I'm like, yes. That's the whole point, for you to start embodying and looking at something, whether it's physical or just the photo of it, to start ingraining that message into your brain. I got this from Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you listen to her podcast. Yeah, okay. Love her. And she makes jokes around this, that people come to her and they're like, oh, so you want us to, feel as if we already have it, but we don't really have it. And she's like, yes, that's how your mind starts manifesting. That's how you start embodying it better. So is that something that you do as well?
100%. I always say to my clients, put your biggest dreams out on paper and just think time is just catching up. It's already happened. Time is just catching up. So we can actually have that underlying belief that this is a possibility. We live in a world that, we're from day dot, we're taught who to be, how to think, raise your hand if you need to go to the freaking bathroom. We're taught in such a small little box that I think it's hard for us, like you said, to think about putting something on paper that I want that I don't yet have, so in the physical reality. So yeah, I think that's perfect. And that actually just feeling that resistance at the start, because it is going to feel weird to start with, the affirmations. You feel like you're weird because we're not taught this kind of stuff at school. We're not taught that this can be your normal. So just feel that resistance, and at some point it'll feel normal. Everything that we do is starting new feels weird, but just feel it, embrace it.
So true. I love that you mentioned that, because there's a lot of resistance that comes into anything that we do that's new. Again, it's like that fear, the unknown. Is it actually going to work, or is it going to work? And again, that comes down to health and fitness as well. Starting at the gym for the first time, or going back to the gym after not being there for a long time, or taking the leap to take care of your health. That can be quite scary for some people. I know it was scary for me once upon a time when I lost my period, like yourself. I was just like, what do I do? Where do I go? And people are like, oh, you'll be fine, just jump back on the pill. It's just like, oh, that's not the answer. But back then I had no idea, so I listened. Do you know what I mean? Where now there's this floor of information out there, and people can start understanding to listen to their intuition, to know what's right and what's not.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially obviously in the current climate we need to know that there is still support out there. And I found when I first I guess worked with someone not in the classic healthcare realm, not just a classic doctor, sought help in another way, it felt scary to me, because I felt like I was becoming an outlier. I felt like I was doing something that wasn't normal or something like that. So just follow your intuition, but just know that if fear or something does come up, like when starting a new program with you or learning something new at the gym, like it is okay to feel that uncertainty at the time, but just know that you're not going to get where you want to go if you keep doing what you've always been doing. Something's got to change.
Yes. Let's talk more about that, because I know you would have come across a lot of clients who have this resistance, and you're trying to lead them in the right way. Like, what are some, okay, so for our listeners, like, what are some tips that you can give someone who wants to make a change but is scared of making that change?
Yeah, I'm very inquisitive, and I like to ask my clients question, like, what are you actually scared of? Okay, so like where's the fear coming from? Because like you said, fear is one of the biggest and like scariest feelings that we can feel, and it holds us back from stepping outside of that comfort zone, because we're scared of the fear zone before we can even get to the growth zone. So like just really ask yourself, like, what am I fearing? And then flip that. Okay, what are going to be the consequences if I don't do this? If I stay where I am in 12 months time, if I haven't changed, or if I haven't made an attempt to change, how much is that going to cost me? And because we can play fear on two ways. We can play fear on fear of doing something or fear of not doing something. So choose. We all have a choice. But we don't see the choices. So choose how you want to frame your thoughts and follow the one that feels good for you. So ask better questions. Ask better questions of yourself. Start asking, like, what is this feeling I'm feeling right now? And why is it there? Get to the root of it. That's
so deep. I love that. And that could be something that they could start journaling about if they're not open enough to speak about it with someone, but just getting into that root cause of like, what's actually stopping you from doing this? And is it a silly, like, made up scenario in your head, or is it actual facts that, maybe you don't have the coach to help you? Okay, well, maybe take the step and do a bit of research, see what coaches are going to be best aligned with you to help you with that.
And also noticing what reasons or excuses are you also creating, because when there's fear there, like, I don't have the time, and the more we say that, or I don't have the money, or I don't know if this is right for me, if that feels right for you, okay, cool, but just notice if you feel like it's just your mind making these excuses so you feel comfortable again, feel safe again. The unconscious mind likes to feel safe. So just notice if these outside reasons that you're coming up with for yourself are protective mechanisms. And if they are, that's cool. But just be aware of them and know that you have the choice to beat them.
So true. So many, from personal experience, I used to be the queen of excuses. I don't have time. I don't have money. I'm not fit enough. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to leave it. And like you mentioned just before, time is catching up to us. And if we're not going in the way that we're wanting to, then we're eventually going to hit that time, and we're just not going to achieve what we're wanting to get to. So I think that's a huge thing for our listeners to understand, that, you may have this fear around change, but again, if you're not going to if you're not going to making the change, what are the consequences?
Yeah.
And I think that's so powerful. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because there's not many of us who actually express that to people to make them understand.
It can be hard, like being in the position as that coach who asks us, because it's triggering for people, you know. It's like, oh, like that hurt, like how dare you ask me that kind of question? And I used to be like that as well. But when we start to actually realize that those feelings of like, is she talking to me? Like if anyone's listening right now and being like, oh my God, that's me, like dig deep into those thoughts and feelings. Like, where is it coming from? There's something there that is trying to tell you something. And this again comes back to connection to ourselves. And, you know, we've probably heard people say like, listen to your body, listen to your intuition. Fucking hard when you don't know what it's saying. So just start like just trying to feel into what's coming up for you, and then see what the possibilities is what it's trying to say.
So true. I think most of us don't know how to feel into our intuition, because there's so many like misled information out there. When it comes to intuition for yourself, what are some ways that you are you best in tune with your body when making decisions?
For sure. Great question. I know the feeling in my body for me. When some people it's a gut feeling, some people it's that, you know, feeling in your heart, some people it's tingling. I would just first try and start noticing what it feels like for you, and just like anchor that in, like just attach that. Okay, that feeling is my intuition, and when I feel that, that's what I'm after. And then when you can start connecting to your mind and deeper beyond your physical body a little bit more, you can start asking your unconscious mind, okay, what is the right thing to do right now? And like just start waiting for that feeling to come up. A really physical one, flip a coin and put a decision on one end, a decision on the other side, and as soon as it lands, if it lands on what you wanted or what you didn't want, you'll know in your body. You'll feel a physical feeling in your body. You'll know what you want. And also taking away the rules that there's a right or wrong decision. Okay, it's either the right one or a right one anyway, and you're going to learn something. We either win or we learn. Okay, so just know that you will make the right decision, and it'll either get you there quicker, or you got to learn something before you get to where you want to go.
So cool. I love that. I like the coin flip.
Oh, I do. Yeah, it's so good. It's just like lands on heads. You're like, fuck, I wanted tails, and then you know what you wanted.
So good. I love everything about that. So it's so much fun to have a better understanding of the feelings that, you know, you're coming across, and making, again, a decision for yourself. And like you said, there's no right or wrong. It's either a right one or the one that's just going to take you a little bit longer to get to that end result. When we're talking about, you know, results, fitness and health, you're very big on nutrition right now with your nourishment project. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I like the realm of nourishment as a whole, of our whole body. And I truly believe, like I'm sure you have similar beliefs, that the quality of food is also important. And I am really about educating my clients about what works for them. I don't want to be telling people you have to eat this, you can't eat this, unless there's obviously some health underlying issues that we need to look at there. But optimizing our own body and our own, you know, feelings of how we feel after eating different foods. So removing that restriction, those rules around what we need to eat, and coming back to our roots of eating real food, whole food, you know, quality grass-fed, free-range meat, organic vegetables and fruits, and just trying to actually notice what should be normal right now. You know, eating out of a box with this crafted little piece of food with about 50 different ingredients, that should not be normalized, yet it is. So just like really coming back to the basics with nutrition, and like noticing your body thrive once your cells feel what good nourishment actually feels like.
I love that. It's so true. And taking away the concept of good and bad foods. Again, it's like 2021, and we're still having to explain to people that there's no such thing as good and bad, but there's context to all of them. again, coming from a holistic approach, the quality is always going to overlay the quantity. Because if you're getting more quantity of, boxed processed foods, again, the way you're going to feel, the way you're going to act or, behave throughout the days is going to be impacted by the food that you're eating. And I know you're very big on that.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to tell everyone, it doesn't take long. You can go through a couple of days of eating really whole good food and you'll feel different. You'll think different. Your energy, your sleep, your digestion, everything will feel different when you actually go for that internal goal of nourishment rather than, like you said, eating the crap, because that's what you're going to feel like. Think of it like you're filling your car. If you're going to put shit in your car, it's going to run crappy. Just be really mindful of how you're actually feeling your body as a vessel.
100%. I love that you mentioned that, because that also ties into hormone health when it comes to healthy periods. And, as a woman, it's very important for us to be in tune with how we're feeling during our cycles. I'm sure that's something that you've experienced over your journey when you got your period back. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely, 100%. I think just really important to note, going down the healthcare route after seeing all those different specialists, not once was I asked about my nutrition, my stress, or my overtraining, which is absolutely mind-boggling. Now, when I'm working with clients, we make some changes to the holistic space, your nutrition, your supplements, your sleep, energy, stress, etc., and we see the changes like that without putting our body under that extra stress. And I felt that hugely too. I think a really big focus for me was my gut health and my digestion, which ties straightly into your hormone health. But noticing at different stages of my cycle, it's okay to eat more, or it's okay to eat the damn chocolate. It's okay, but just how we actually view that. Again, coming back to the intention behind things. Am I overeating? Am I binge eating now because I'm not dealing with my emotions? Get the journal out. Do I need more energy right now? I'm training more during this stage of my cycle. Eating all that food that makes me feel good and noticing your body respond.
So good. I love that. I love everything about that. It's something that as women we need to start being more aware of, and also embody that, over the cycle you're gonna change, you're gonna feel differently around your cycle. And again, coming from a nourishment perspective, you want to be fueling your body with the best foods you can to help you have a healthy period. How many times have you come across clients who have suffered from, PMS symptoms or migraines, headaches, being a moody bitch, and you're like, let's fix this. Let's change what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And not normalizing it, not normalizing that, you have to go to extreme mood levels during a cycle, or this pain's going to come every month, or the headaches are actually debilitating. That's not normal. That's the sign of your body trying to talk to you. Again, listen to it. Something's out of balance here.
So true. I remember there was one stage, I don't know about I'm sure, well, maybe you can resonate with it, but I remember there was a time where I was constantly in pain. During my cycle, PMS was hardcore, the bloating, the heavy periods, and again, that was the reality of my current life. I was, a heavily party goer. I was drinking, I was smoking, I was doing whatever you shouldn't be doing that actually caused all this pain. And then once you just, slightly make that switch, you're noticing, it's not as painful as it was. And you make those little, you connect the dots and you just realize, this is why this has happened. And this is what I need to do to keep moving that needle forward, away from actually having to, call your boss, call in sick and be like, actually, I'm not sick. I just got my period and I can't move. So yeah, I'll see you later.
Absolutely. And like you said, just connecting those dots for yourself, someone else can tell you, but until you actually experience it, it's so much more meaningful and so much more powerful, because you have the power. You made those choices to change your behaviors and the lifestyle that you were living, which correlated with how your body was responding. it does seem simple, but I feel it's not at the time I'm like in it. But like, just be super mindful of what actions are you actually taking.
Mindfulness is a big one. And going back to the mindset side of things, many of us are not mindful of the choices that we're making. And again, like we mentioned before, it's going back, whether it's like childhood behavior or from like your, parental or guidance that you had previous, that those are integrated into your everyday life. And I find that's something that most people need more work on. What do you reckon?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And it doesn't stop. Like I do work on myself with other NLP practitioners who study together, because you always find stuff coming up for you, and just viewing that as an opportunity for your own personal growth and development, not as a, oh fuck, look what I've got to deal with now. Like really just view it as an opportunity. And again, reframing your words to an opportunity, not like I have to sort this shit out. Okay. And yeah, beliefs are huge. I think they shape a lot of what we do, but they also come from our experiences in our past. So a lot of people I know, trauma's big at the moment, which is amazing, but we also need to notice and respect that people who don't identify as having trauma in their childhood, there is still beliefs that need work. If you're not exactly where you want to be, there's something underlying, whether it's a traumatic event as defined by it, or it's something that happened which could be a trauma for you. It could have disrupted the homeostasis of your body at the time, and your unconscious mind is still holding on to it, still holding on to those emotions, and you can't let go and you can't move on until we actually go back and sort that stuff out so you can, move with peace.
I love that you mentioned that, because again, trauma can come in so many ways, whether, whether it's like physical, sexual abuse, or like whatever, some form of abuse, or a loss of a loved one, or emotional eating, binge eating.
Absolutely.
The girls that you work with, have you come across anyone that has had any emotional or suffered from an eating disorder that you've actually had to help?
Yeah, I actually work with a lot of women around the eating disorder side of things, because that's what we can physically see. That's what we notice that we need help with. And then we start working together, and then we believe, oh my God, there's actually this stuff here, which is causing me to behave in this way. And then that's a really, really amazing transformation for people when they realize it's not actually my fault. It's not actually on me. This weight just kind of drops off, that there was something there that happened that is leading this action, kind of from that deeper level, which is huge. And I've worked with clients who have, like you said, that sexual abuse trauma, difficulty with their parents when they grew up, things that happen in their childhood. But there's also things like, could be the tiniest little event, like you get home from school, didn't get an A in your report card, your parent might have said something, not with abusive intent at all, but it just might have resonated with you at the time, and that could trigger something. That could trigger perfectionism behavior for the rest of your life until you deal with it. Always having that belief that I'm not good enough unless I have X. So we can see our behaviors coming from the smallest little events, but how our unconscious mind actually internalizes them.
What are some, I know this is going to be like a really in-depth question, because again, this just depends on the client at the time. But when we're looking at someone who has suffered from emotional eating disorders or binge eating, what are some ways that you would start to help them to build more to let them build more self-awareness around the choices that they're making?
I always like to start with just noticing where the intention and the attention is going. So if someone is super obsessive over the food, like allowing them kind of like a release from that, finding what else they love in life, like where else can they direct this energy. A lot of women that I work with say, I used to be super creative, or I used to love baking, but now I don't do it anymore. I'm like, okay, let's tap into that. Let's direct that energy into something else. And a lot of the time that just frees up that emotional space to be directed to somewhere else. And of course, going through the beliefs and the values and, you know, the unconscious past events that we've gone through, releasing those. But in terms of physical, journaling, conscious like expression of what we're feeling, mindfulness, meditation, self-care in general, super broad. Self-care encompasses eating well, sleeping well, loving well, surrounding yourself with good people, getting outside, all the good stuff, but kind of like drip feeding that as we go.
Yeah, I love that, because it could just be a little bit overwhelming if you do all of that. So yeah, for our listeners who are taking like notes down, make sure you don't do everything as a whole, like pick one thing and do it. But I love that you mentioned for clients to do more of the stuff that they love, but they don't do enough of it, or they haven't done, like the baking side of things. Or, you know, some clients I work with, they love dancing, but they just don't dance because they don't have time. It's just like, well, let's make some time for dancing, you know? So, and for those who make the time, for those who are making those changes, they literally, their message be like, oh my God, Siggy, like, I've just danced for like 5 minutes and I'm just feeling so good. And I'm like, yes, let's keep doing that.
100%. And something I also say to my clients along that line is sometimes we just need to get out of our minds and into our body. So like dance, go for a run, jump in a sauna, like do something that'll change your physical state, because that'll change your like physiological state as well.
Yeah. And I love that, because the more you start repeating that, the more you'll start embodying a new you and start leaving the old you behind. Because again, we're all here to want to lead in a newer way. You know, we've all come across, whether it's like emotional eating or training excessively or losing our periods as well. You know, we're not wanting to stay in that bad bubble. You want to, you know, go out and explore a little bit more to start feeling better.
Absolutely. And I think that's great that we have so much intention for more at the moment, but just going about it in the way that works for you, and know that like there's people like you out there that are supporting people doing it in a not so traditional way. So just know that there is ways. Where there's a will, there's a way.
There's always a way. And I love that you mentioned that, because it's always a trial and error. There's no one method that's going to work for everyone else. It may look like, you know, a training program works really well, or an eating plan, but again, it depends on the person. Like back to what you said, it's very based on their values, their behaviors, understanding where they are in core, so they can make those positive changes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I love that. I love it.
So good. Before we finish up, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so I usually hang out on Instagram, my main kind of place. So at weglow.wellness. I am also on Facebook, or you can check out my website as well. I'd love, DM me, follow me, whatever. I'll get back to anyone. And also share this podcast, of course, if you listen to it. I'm sure you're the same, but just getting the word out there is like the most impactful thing we can do.
Yes, changing the world.
One day at a time.
Yes, one day and one woman at a time. I love
100%,
that.
100%. So good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Abby. It has been an absolute pleasure talking all about the mindset side of things. It literally lights me up to have conversations like these, and just making people realize that, hey, it's not just about your training program or just about the meal plan that you're eating. It's more than that. It's diving deeper into the psychology side of things and tapping into your mindset and understanding who you really are as a person and how you can evolve and grow from that.
For sure. And just that there is like limitless possibilities. We think outside the box, let there be no fucking box, and just go big and feel amazing every day. It's 100% possible. If there's something in your life right now that isn't optimal, like work out how you can make it optimal.
Vision it, girls. Make it big. Put it on your wall. Put it on your computer screen, wherever you can see it, just have it there so you can envision it. Awesome, girls. Well, I hope all our listeners enjoyed today's episode. I sure did. I love having these conversations. But yeah, girls, if you did enjoy today's podcast, make sure to screenshot the episode, tag myself and tag Abby at We Glow Wellness. And until then, I hope you all stay nourished, healthy, and Abby, what's the last word?
Smile. Smile.
And
Big
smile. Smile, big girls. All right. See you later.